If you've studied fashion at all, you've no doubt heard of Elsa Schiaparelli, or at least seen her work. How she not only combined surrealism with fashion, but created a marriage between the world of fine art and couture, creating iconic moments in fashion history through creative collaborations with the likes of Salvador Dali and Jean Cocteau. Her influence in the fashion world was undeniable. Yet in 1954, the couture side of Schiaparelli went dark. In 2012, the house's attempt at revival was met with tepid enthusiasm, failing to recapture the global attention and prestige that it once held, with collections leaning too heavily into archival references, prioritizing imitation over innovation. But in 2019, with the appointment of creative director Daniel Roseberry, the brand was given a second chance, and has since been propelled from relative obscurity into a powerhouse of creativity and imagination, the gold standard for modern haute couture. So how did Daniel Roseberry, someone who had never created a couture collection before, become the first American creative director of a French haute couture house? How did he combine the house codes with his own vision in order to bring Schiaparelli into modernity? And how did he successfully put Schiaparelli back into the minds of everyone in the fashion world while the prior attempts failed? Well, to answer those questions, we'll need to take a look at the design philosophy of Daniel Roseberry.
Surrealism almost feels like a verb, that as opposed to a noun.
When trying to understand how an artist creates, one must first look at the experiences which shaped who they are. Daniel Roseberry grew up in a religious household in Dallas, Texas. His parents were born-again Christians, and in the year of Daniel's birth, his father had founded a church. Daniel went to private school, yet his family was not wealthy, and as he put it, everyone had tons of money. We basically had none. I was daydreaming all the time of things we couldn't have. Yet, despite his family's financial limitations, he kept on dreaming, all the while leading rather a private, cautious life, because growing up in the South surrounded by religion, he was led to believe that his homosexuality was a defect, that he had failed his family and had failed God. As Daniel described his experience as a young gay man in Texas, tortuous is a dramatic word, but it was sort of tortuous. It was a journey of deep self-hatred and thinking that I was a broken and failed heterosexual. You are a failed version of what you should have been, and it's your job to bring yourself back to a general semblance of normality. And Daniel knew that he was destined to escape the small-minded thinking and limitations set upon him by his environment. He was a dreamer, yet also afraid to pursue those dreams. The fear of failure, of disappointing those around him and himself. If he moved to New York to become a fashion designer and it didn't work out, and even though Daniel could feel that he was destined for greater things, that fear was overwhelming. So much so that even after he was accepted into FIT, the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York, he chose to become a Christian missionary instead, so that he could explore all of his options before committing to the one that called to him the most. However, after his mission, he had finally built up the strength to confront his fears and take the next step towards becoming a designer, attending FIT, only to drop out after landing an internship with Thom Browne in 2008, where he was for 10 years. The last 5 of which he served as the brand's design director of men's and women's collections. 5 years from intern to design director. Thom Browne clearly saw the creative genius that resided within Daniel, and he served as an important mentor in Daniel's career, unknowingly preparing him for his appointment to the House of Schiaparelli, the realization of Daniel's dreams. To imagine, wonder, and create the beauty that had always resided deep within his own imagination, to evoke strong emotions in an audience, and to create unparalleled pieces of artistry under the umbrella of a historic, respected house of couture.
Laughs are cheap. I'm going for gasps. What do you see, dude? Gasps are where it's at.
Daniel Roseberry's debut couture collection for Schiaparelli, Fall-Winter 2019, served to create a bridge between the audience and the design process. Elements of fashion typically held completely separate. However, in an effort to humanize couture, to bring a perspective never before seen on the runway, Daniel placed himself center stage. And as a soundtrack of passing trains rumbling along the tracks filled the dark room, Daniel put his headphones on, sat down at his drafting table, and began to sketch. As each look came to life around him, he evoked the image of his life inside a small studio apartment in Chinatown that he had lived in prior to moving to Paris. An image of humility, persistence, and normalcy while creating unimaginably expensive, luxurious garments for some of the richest people in the world. The ultimate form of surrealism in Daniel's eye. He had never designed couture, and he did not speak French, yet he was somehow the creative director of a French couture house, so he wasn't going to let this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity go to waste. And in order to separate himself from the direction of the brand prior to his tenure, Daniel knew that he needed to channel both the spirit and the bravery of Elsa, while not directly referencing her work, at least for the first collection. As a result, he turned to surrealism through other influences. He connected his childhood memories to the work of his present, most notably the volumes of clouds which evoked the concept of the Freudian dreamscape, as Daniel was always finding himself lost in his daydreams as a child, as well as in nature, animalia, and religion, which he translated into jewelry, appliques, and other motifs reminiscent of his humble religious upbringings, elements which laid the initial foundations for the identity he has since built at Schiaparelli, and that which he continues to refine and evolve through different fabrications and narratives woven throughout each new couture collection, while celebrating femininity, freedom, and the body for his customers, an intuitive way of design unique to Daniel Roseberry. Yet, after Daniel's debut collection, the owner of Schiaparelli, Diego de la Valle, was less than pleased. As Daniel put it, quote, "We had to have a come-to-Jesus type meeting about that, and I will never forget it." He kind of explained more explicitly what he needed to see in order to feel good about pouring all this money into the project. And this course correction from de la Valle, while potentially harsh, was taken to heart. And while the Fall 2019 collection was great for a first couture collection, it was a bit unfocused, with many competing ideas. Yet it made a statement, a declaration of renaissance for the brand, and established many recurring motifs we still see today. The next couture collection, Spring-Summer 2020, saw a dramatic shift in design language, the use of color, and the implementation of surrealism more in line with Elsa's. The color palette for the Spring-Summer collection was much more strict and refined than the previous collection, displaying a concise range of black, white, nude, neutrals, and navy, with pops of springtime accents in vibrant pinks, reds, and blues. And from that point on, Daniel's use of color only became more and more refined, cutting out the excess and committing to limited ranges of statement hues for dramatic effect and grounded bases that serve as a palette cleanser for the rest of the collections to grow from. In his second collection, we also saw the birth of the now iconic Schiaparelli jewelry, imagined as contouring body parts, such as ears and eyes. The most outwardly surrealist signature from his work thus far, and now an identifier of the house, personal to Daniel's identity, Elsa's eccentricity, and a shared appreciation for the timeless beauty of the body. The body being an endless source of inspiration for him and a cornerstone of his work from Spring-Summer 2020 up until today. Yet Daniel doesn't implement the body or any other surrealist motif into his work excessively. He has honed the ability to show considerable restraint within his designs. imbuing in each and every look a personality completely distinct and self-contained, with a juxtaposition between excess and simplicity present in each one, such as when gold teeth appliques and pearl-laden abstracted shapes drew the viewer's eyes in, a chic black dress subdues that almost decadent level of excess. Daniel grounds his looks in a surrealist reality, never allowing them to cross over into gaudiness or pretension. Even when entire periods of his shows will astound the viewer with dramatic silhouettes and gravity-defying volumes, he'll then give the audience a break and allow us to appreciate a look of pure, chic elegance, romance, and rest before the next crescendo appears on the runway. Daniel composes his collections like the acts of an opera. And while other couture houses stay relatively monotone in their delivery, Daniel looked at Elsa's original sense of freedom throughout her work, how she was unrestrained by expectation, and he's since given himself permission to adopt that same mindset. Daniel imbues in his collections the narrative qualities of rises and falls, excitement and contemplation, achieved through a balance between excess and austerity, with the underlying theme of unabashed glamour tying each collection to the others. He instills in the audience a sense of awe and wonder, provoking one to think and inspiring one to dream. 5 years ago, Daniel Roseberry had never designed a couture collection before. However, his unconventional approach to design, brought on through his humble upbringing and the internal struggles he faced in his youth, are exactly what enabled him to approach couture from an entirely new perspective. And he's not only able to achieve a remarkable level of innovative surrealism in his work despite his past, but directly because of it. And how for inspiration he draws from both the archives of Schiaparelli, the duality that Elsa experienced herself, additionally from his own childhood and the duality intrinsic to his lived experiences as well. And as a lover of literature, film, and music, Daniel understands the importance of elegance within his work. To let a piece stand alone and for the audience to have time to think about what is present in front of them. And other times when his work needs to shock the audience, to instill surprise and awe, to achieve a cinematic climax of narrative and convey a marvel of craftsmanship, allowing the audience to truly invest themselves in the entire presentation of each of his collections, which build off of one another with persistent surrealist motifs, couture techniques, colors, and volumes. His work evolves, but never strays. And as a result of this rigor, confidence, and intuition, Daniel Roseberry has shaped the identity of Schiaparelli in a way that no other designer before him has been able to, except for, of course, Elsa herself. And while playing to the strengths of his atelier, Daniel continues to demonstrate that couture is a team sport, not a one-man army, and that as captain, he truly has a deep understanding of what his team can accomplish. A personality fit to lead, to direct, to imagine and dream, to take Schiaparelli into the future like no other designer can. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and tell me what you think about it. And if you want to support my channel further and help me to make more content, I have a Patreon where you can do so. Patrons will be featured in the credits of my future videos, they'll get early access to all my releases, and be a part of the Discord community. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.